K9AHO N5SQA.
This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9.
N5SQA, this is K9AHO.
Okay, well, something went wrong with the Ham Shack hotline, apparently. You disappeared, and then when I try to redial you, I get your answering machine. So I'm not sure what's happening there. You're right, it's probably a network issue. You got any indications on your end?
Yeah, I think it's my Orbi mesh network. My ham shack's located out in my external garage, which is a brick building, and then our main house where the fiber goes in is also a brick building, and so I've got a Ethernet over power lines that I'm using to kind of bridge that gap, but it's not very reliable. So what I'll need to do in order to make this work for me is probably put in a Cat6 hardline, and I think at that point I won't have that latency that we're experiencing. It's kind of frustrating, you know, because it seems to be working so well until it doesn't.
Yeah, it sounds like your mesh network's not helping. I have fiber coming into the house, and my Ham Shack hotline phone is right beside where that happens, and so I think I have a pretty solid connection to that network. Anyway, the other thing that we were talking about was the ARDN, and by the way, that's an acronym, Amateur Radio Emergency Data Network, AREDN, and you can go to aredn.org, and it sort of gives you a little, I haven't read the whole thing yet, but it sounds like the thing was shut down for trademark issues. But again, I haven't read the whole thing. But so it may not be a thing anymore. But there are probably other people on here that know way more about it than me. Let's see, what else? You're in Terrell. A reset. I said before I didn't think your phone number had enough numbers in it. Then I remember back to what happened to me. I've been a Ham Shack hotline guy for a long time. My phone number originally was a total of 5 digits, and apparently they ran out of digits for new phone lines. So I got an urgent email a year or two ago where they said, oh, your phone number is changed, and they added 2 digits in the middle of my number. So you should see my number on your device because we did make a connection. I don't want to say it on the air. But at any rate, take a look at that, and you'll see, compare our numbers, and you can see I got in there a little earlier than you did, so I had a shorter number to begin with, but they added a couple of zeros in the middle. N5SQA.
All right, yeah. While I was on the phone saying hello, hello, I did take a picture of the screen, so I've got your phone number on there. So as soon as I get my network issues sorted here, I'll put you into speed dial. And sounds like we've got a lot of common interests, and certainly I'm wanting to learn more about MCOM, and I know you've got a very extensive background with that. By the way, I see we're about 7 minutes before Skynet, so just want to be mindful of that as well. K9AHO.
Yes, on some nights I listen into some of the Saturday night nets. I'm usually doing something Saturday nights, but I just got back from the World Champion Robot thing, and I'm just beat. And my wife is out doing something because she didn't know when I was going to get back tonight. And so I was listening to the radio a little bit, but I may listen into the Skynet, but I'm probably just going to crash out. Yeah, I've got nothing new. But one of these days we'll hook up when you get your Amshack hotline going, and yeah, there we go. So Brian, be well. Happy Easter, whether you celebrate it or not. And I'll look for you again on the air later. I'm taking a time out here. K9 AHO, N5 SQA will be clear on your final.
N5 SQA, K9 AHO. Ron, it was great chatting with you tonight. Thank you for reaching out and for contacting me on the Amshack hotline. You're my second caller officially. So looking forward to future conversations with you. And sounds like you have ready for some well-deserved rest. Happy Resurrection Day to you as well. And 73, K9 AHO monitoring.
W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to club website, w5fc.org. Look for tonight's announcement and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry if you want to check in via voice. We will continue to do so, do that too over air and Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Recent astronomical discoveries. 5. Discussion topic of the evening. 6. What's up? 7. Space exploration and space history. 8. Constellation of the week. 9. Space launches of the week. 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A. And 12. 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people checked in via w5fc.org. Stand by. We have November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony, in Bird City. KE5ICX, Tom, in Corpus Christi. Kilo 5, Mike Charlie Delta, Cody, in Dallas. November 5, Lima India Golf, Dale, in Little Elm. Whiskey 5, BLT, Bill, in Garland. AG5, PM, Rich, in Rockwall. WB5OZL, Brenda, that would be me. November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. KI5PGM, Travis in McKinney. And November, Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia, Fort Worth. Kilo 9, Alpha Hotel, Oscar, Brian in Terrell. So you can also check in now over the air if you like. If I could please have your call sign name, call sign phonetically name, and your location. Please come now.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WD4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power, short time. This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far northeast Dallas.
Okay, we've picked up Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, Ted in Dallas, and Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus in Dallas. Do we have any Echo Link check-ins at this time? Okay, well, we'll come back to these. So, general announcements. Do we have any general announcements? Hold on, please. Sorry, Coco the cat is in the way. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? So, please come now.
Brenda, whoever that was, there's no audio on that transmission. This isn't BB.
Thank you again. Do we have any announcements? Please come now.
KE5I6.
KE5I6. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple of announcements inside the script. It says there'll be no RACES training net tomorrow evening, so you have the evening off for Easter. There also will not be a MODA meeting on the air for the DARC tomorrow night either, so they get that night off as well. So you've got Sunday off if you attend either of those two nets. However, for all hands who like to share what's going on in this, that would be for people who would normally share what's in their ham world, but don't worry, they'll be back in a couple of weeks. The MS-150 charity bike ride is in severe need of additional ham radio operators on May 3rd and 4th of 2025. Go to your favorite search engine and search for DFW MRide. Let me see if I got that right. DFWMSrides.com. DFWMSride.com, I guess. Okay. Boy, that's a tough one. It says to do a search on that, all one word, DFWMSride.com. Plural, that's comms, C-O-M-M-S. I messed that up, I'm sure, but you should be able to find it anyway. We know you want to be a part of that, so please, they are in desperate need of help. That should be a fun event. And you don't have to be there for both nut days. From what I hear, you can be there for one or the other. Okay, next up, the White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Club will be having its regular fox hunt tomorrow. Enjoy the holiday out in the park. You can go to wa5wrl.org for additional information. Tonight's Afterglow movie discussion, which I'll bring up some more information on, is called The Underwater City from 1962. It says too little eye candy and too much narration is what I say. Join us and share your review. Or if you haven't seen it, there's probably a better underwater movie you could suggest. That's true. There's plenty of them. And don't forget, the DARC Lecture and Lab is just around the corner. It's a fun radio day in the park. Look for additional information at w5sc.org for all the details. And that's it, Brenda, for now. KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. And this is WB5OZL. So we have other announcements. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central, you can check into the National AMSAT net. Learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. You will need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston. 2 local nets are available in Dallas. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as others checked in. AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, Tuesdays. Tom, November 5, HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so no AMSAT East that night. And Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 146.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, positive offset. The DARC hosts a number of nets on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. Check the W5FC.org website. This coming Monday will be, third week Ham Fixin's Net. This is a second helping. This Monday is the second helping of Ham Fixin's Net. Bring your favorite new recipes, cooking tips, or techniques. We even wouldn't mind a good restaurant review or 2. Just make sure you eat something before the net because you'll get hungry. Brenda, WV5OZL, is Net Control. Saturdays are the Night of Nets, where we keep the airwaves burning until midnight. Here's the lineup. TechNet, 7 to 8 p.m., Q&A of all things ham radio related. There's also a swap meet, Rookies Corner, news and information, and ham radio events and contests. Alternating net control each week. Skynet, 9 to 10:30 p.m., Astronomy, space, and space exploration are the topics. Also, news and information, satellite passes, and the constellation of the week. Afterglow Movie Net from 10:30 to midnight. Will it be a hit or the dreaded miss? Thumbs up or thumbs down? You make the call. We watch an assigned science fiction movie and then review it for about 90 minutes. We discuss plot, characterization, special effects, music, and answer the question, will I dare watch this movie ever again? Everyone is welcome to check in, even if you haven't seen the movie, which might actually be a plus. First and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. That's MODA. What's going on in your ham world? Tell us. Also learn about the club that maintains this popular repeater, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Club news and information, events, activities, including club meetings, lecture, lab, public service events, contests, and just general discussion. Everyone can check into this net. Daily, we have the ARRL net, National Traffic System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Learn how message traffic is handled on this formal training net. Newbies are welcome to check in as this is a training net. The NTS also conducts an evening net on the Irving WA5 CFK repeater 146.72 megahertz at 9:30 p.m. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. So tonight's Afterglow, I'm going to ask Tom, KE5ICX, to tell us about tonight's movie, if you would, please.
Well, thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Here's my highly accurate synopses for the underwater city from 1962. Commander Bob Gage had second thoughts about his underwater city, brilliantly called the Underwater City. He looked out the hatch window and several submarines floated by. First, a steam-powered one with a captain type angrily playing the Queen Victoria Death March on an organ. Another submarine floated by, this time a French guy with a pipe and a pet manatee under his arm. He was flashing "You're number one," but not in a good way. After him, a chain-smoking admiral fighting a mummy, Nazi U-boat commander, and a time-traveling leprechaun. Odd, yes, but all of them at the same time. Time management wasn't this captain's strong suit. Even though Gage and company were on the bottom of the ocean, it seemed a bunch of wacky submarine sea captains had beat him here, and they weren't very happy for the additional company. But someone had to break the monotony and build a first-class underwater research base. Unfortunately, he wasn't that guy. Join us for the litigious, lawsuit-infested production, The Underwater City, from 1962, tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to you, Brenda, KE5ICX.
Okay, I'll now take additional voice check-ins. Please come down.
This is Kilo November 5, Echo, 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 Al from Allen, Texas. November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo 11, Bill Thomas French.
Echo Link, K5 LQD, Jimmy and Richardson.
November 5 Sierra, Quebec Alpha, Ron, Dallas.
Okay, that's a healthy bunch. We got KN5EEE, Al and Alan, NT5TM, Tony, Dallas, KE5ZBL, Bill, K5LQD, Jimmy, N5SQA, Ron. Thank you all. All right, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where you can look through a telescope. Playing the role of Chaz tonight is Virginia, NV5F. Go ahead, Virginia.
Okay, thank you, Brenda, and thanks everyone for your patience with me as I play the role of Chaz. All right, Flight Master, flight number 1 on April 25th, 2025 will be the next TAS meeting, and the meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and will also be held on Zoom. The featured speaker is Dr. Lindsay King of UT Dallas, and her topic will be Cosmic Collisions, Galaxy, and Black Holes. Saturday night public observing session continues. Skynet was picked to be on the Saturday night so that there would be opportunity for live reports from the past public observing session. On the third Saturday of the month, the stargazing is held at Cedar Hill. However, tonight's stargazing was canceled due to clouds. Check into the TAS website, www.texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about the meetings and public observing sessions. Thank you so much, and back to net. This is Virginia NV5F.
Thank you, Virginia. Next up, National Space Society events and activities. I'm going to call on Bill, November 5, BB, to give us an update. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Brenda. This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I happen to be the membership director and the vice president of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. My email address is space@byrom.net. That's SPACE@BYROM.net. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S., which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. The big event each year for the National Space Society is the International Space Development Conference, ISDC. The next ISDC will be held in Orlando, Florida on June the 19th to 22nd of this year. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. Our April 13th meeting, that was last Sunday, was the Europa Clipper mission by Dr. Tracy Becker of Southwest Research Institute in San Antonio. This is a space probe that's headed toward Europa, a moon of Jupiter, and is going to do a bunch of flybys and hopefully find some very interesting water ice there. This is in 5BB. The next chapter meeting for the local chapter of the National Space Society will be held on Sunday afternoon, May the 11th. A presentation topic for this specific meeting is not yet known. Our meetings are also available virtually using WebEx. Contact N5BB if you'd like to attend online or in person. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. The next Space Rendezvous will be held next week, this coming Friday, April the 25th. We usually have around 10 people at these meetings. Their dinners. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, N5BB, at his QRZ listed email address or at space@byrom.net. That's all I've got. Back to you, Brenda. This is N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. We have a couple of more check-ins on the online check-in. AI5SR, Suwan, and N5OF Clay. Thank you all for joining us. So next up is Recent Astronomical Society. Recent Astronomical Discoveries. Sorry, my computer keeps doing everything but what I want it to do. I need to get me another screen. That's what I need. title of this is from Science Daily. Curiosity rover finds large carbon deposits on Mars. Research from NASA's Curiosity rover has found evidence of a carbon cycle on ancient Mars, bringing scientists closer to an answer of whether the red planet was ever capable of supporting life. Lead author Dr. Ben Tutolo, Ph.D., an associate professor with the Department of Earth, Energy, and Environment in the Faculty of Science and the University of Calgary, is a participating scientist on the NASA Mars Science Laboratory Curiosity rover team. The team is working to understand climate transitions and habitability on ancient Mars as Curiosity explores Gale Crater. The paper, published this week in the journal Science, reveals that data from 3 of Curiosity's drill sites had siderite, an iron carbonate material within sulfate-rich layers of Mount Sharp in Gale Crater. The discovery of large carbon deposits in Gale Crater represents both a surprising and important breakthrough in our understanding of the geologic and atmospheric evolution of Mars, says Tutolo. Reaching this, he says, was the long-term goal of the Mars Science Laboratory mission. The abundance of highly soluble salts in these rocks and similar deposits mapped over much of Mars has been used as evidence of the great drying of Mars during its dramatic shift from a warm and wet early Mars to its current cold and dry state, says Tutolo. Sedimentary carbonate has long been predicted to have formed under the CO2-rich ancient Martian atmosphere, but Tutolo says identifications had previously been sparse. NASA's Curiosity rover landed on Mars on August 5, 2012, and has traveled more than 34 kilometers on the Martian surface. The discovery of carbonate suggests that the atmosphere contained enough carbon dioxide to support liquid water existing on the planet's surface. As the atmosphere thinned, the carbon dioxide transformed into rock form. NASA says future missions and analysis of other sulfate-rich areas on Mars could confirm the findings and help to better understand the planet's early history and know how it transformed as its atmosphere was lost. Tutolo says scientists are ultimately trying to determine whether Mars was ever capable of supporting life, and the latest paper brings them closer to an answer. It tells us that the planet was habitable and that the models for habitability are correct, he says. The broader implications are the planet was habitable up until this time, but then as the CO2 had been warming the planet, starting to participate as siderite, it ultimately impacted Mars' ability to stay warm. The question looking forward is how much of this CO2 from the atmosphere was actually sequestered. Was that potentially a reason we began to lose habitability? The latest research, he says, fits with his ongoing work on Earth, trying to turn anthropogenic CO2 into carbonates as a climate change solution. Learning about the mechanisms of making these minerals on Mars helps us to better understand how we can do it here, he says. Studying the collapse of Mars's warm and wet early days also tells us that habitability is a very fragile thing. Tutolo says it's clear that small changes in atmospheric CO2 can lead to huge changes in the ability of the planet to harbor life. The most remarkable thing about Earth is that it's habitable and has been for at least 4 billion years, he adds. Something happened to Mars that didn't happen to Earth. Do we have any more check-ins at this time? All right, the next segment is presented by me. The article is entitled, New Form of Dark Matter Could Solve Decades-Old Milky Way Mystery. Astronomers have long been puzzled by two strange phenomena at the heart of our galaxy. First, the gas in the Central Molecular Zone, or CMZ, a dense and chaotic region near the Milky Way's core, appears to be ionized, meaning it is electrically charged because it has lost electrons at a surprisingly high rate. Second, telescopes have detected a mysterious glow of gamma rays with an energy of 511 kilo-electron volts, which corresponds to the energy of an electron at rest. Interestingly, such gamma rays are produced when an electron and its antimatter counterpart, all fundamentally charged particles, have antimatter versions of themselves that are near identical but with opposite charge. The positron collide and annihilate in a flash of light. The causes of both effects have remained unclear despite decades of observation, but in a new study published in Physical Review Letters, we show that both could be linked to one of the most elusive ingredients in the universe, dark matter. In particular, we propose that a new form of dark matter, less massive than types astronomers typically look for, could be the culprit. The CMZ spans almost 700 light years and contains some of the most dense molecular gas in the galaxy. Over the years, scientists have found that this region is unusually ionized, meaning the hydrogen molecules there are being split into charged particles, electrons and nuclei, at a much faster rate than expected. This could be the result of sources such as cosmic rays and starlight that bombard the gas. However, these alone don't seem to be able to account for the observed levels. The other mystery, the 511 keV emission, was first observed in the 1970s, but still has no clearly identified source. Sorry, I lost my place. Several candidates have been proposed, including supernovas, massive stars, black holes, and neutron stars. However, none fully explain the pattern or intensity of the emission. We ask a simple question: could both phenomena be caused by the same hidden process? Dark matter makes up around 85% of the matter in the universe, but it does not emit or absorb light. While its gravitational effects are clear, scientists do not yet know what it is made of. Let me reset. One possibility often overlooked is that dark matter particles could be very light, with masses of just a few million electron volts, far lighter than a proton, and still play a cosmic role. These light dark matter candidates are generally called sub-GeV, or giga-electron volts, dark matter particles. Such dark matter particles may interact with their antiparticles. In our work, we studied what would happen if these light dark matter particles came in contact with their own antiparticles in the galactic center and annihilated each other, producing electrons and positrons. In the dense gas of the CMV, these low-energy particles would quickly lose energy and ionize the surrounding hydrogen molecules very efficiently by knocking off their electrons. Because the region is so dense, the particles would not travel far. Instead, they would deposit most of their energy locally, which matches the observed ionization profile quite well. Using detailed simulations, we found that the simple process, dark matter particles annihilating into electrons and positrons, can naturally explain the ionization rates observed in the CMZ. Even better, the required properties of dark matter, such as mass and interaction strength, do not conflict with any known constraints from the early universe. Dark matter of this kind appears to be a serious option. If dark matter is creating positrons in the CMZ, these particles will eventually slow down and eventually annihilate with electrons in the environment, producing gamma rays at exactly 511 keV energy. This would provide a direct link between the ionization and the mysterious glow. We found that while dark matter can explain ionization, it may also be able to replicate some amount of keV, of 511 keV radiation as well. The striking findings suggest that the two signals may potentially originate from the same source, light-dark matter. Exact brightness of the 511 keV line depends on several factors, including how efficiently positrons form bound states with electrons and where exactly they annihilate. These details are still uncertain. Regardless of whether this 511 keV emission and the CMZ ionization share a common source, the ionization rate in the CMZ is emerging as a valuable new observation to study dark matter. In particular, it provides a way to test models involving light-dark matter particles, which are difficult to detect using traditional laboratory experiments. In our study, we showed that the predicted ionization profile from dark matter is remarkably flat across the CMZ. This is important because the observed ionization is indeed spread relatively evenly. Point sources such as the black hole at the center of the galaxy or cosmic ray sources like supernovas, exploding stars, cannot easily explain this, but a smoothly distributed dark matter halo can. Our findings suggest that the center of the Milky Way may offer new clues about the fundamental nature of dark matter. Future telescopes with better resolutions will be able to provide more on the spatial distribution and relationships between the 511 keV line and the CMZ ionization rate. Meanwhile, continued observations of the CMZ may help rule out or strengthen the dark matter explanation. Either way, these strange signals from the heart of the galaxy remind us that the universe is still full of surprises, sometimes looking inward to the dynamic, glowing center of our own galaxy reveals the most unexpected hints of what lies behind. This article is republished from The Conversation under a Creative Commons license. You can read the original article. All right, next up we have What's Up? Chaz is out this evening, so this will be read by Virginia, November Victor 5, Foxtrot. This is What's Up? Go ahead, Virginia.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. This is Virginia in D5S for Chaz. And Slide Master, slide number 2. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's about what has gone on astronomically over the past couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide Master, slide number 3. We have talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt any time. It is currently at a brightness of around 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. But when it goes nova, T Corona Borealis will become as bright as the North Star. Chaz can see the North Star with just his 2 eyes from his very light-polluted location. Slide Master, slide number 4. This image is from Thursday, April 11th from www.spaceweather.com. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you can use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum, but we're not sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. And Chaz recently talked about the solar cycle here a couple months ago on Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 5. On April 12th, there was a full moon occurred, so the current phase of the moon is a waning Gibbon. On April 20th, the moon's phase will be the third quarter, and on April 27th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 357,118 kilometers. The moon will be new on April 27th. On May 4th is the first quarter moon phase. On May 10th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,244 kilometers. Slide number 6. On April 24th, there is a conjunction of Venus, Saturn, Neptune, with the moon and Mercury close in the east-southeastern sky. If you want to observe this, you will need a telescope to see Neptune. Slide master, slide number 7. On the next morning, April 25th, the moon joins in the conjunction of the moon, Mercury, Neptune, Saturn, and Venus in the east-southeast morning sky. Again, you'll need a telescope to observe Neptune. Slide number 8. On April 28th, in the west-northwestern evening sky, the moon and the planet Uranus and the Pleiades star cluster are in conjunction. You will need at least a pair of binoculars to see Uranus. And slide number 9. On April 30th, there is a conjunction of Venus, Neptune, and Saturn, all within 4 degrees of each other in the eastern morning sky. A telescope will be needed to observe Neptune. Slide master, slide number 10. On May 2nd, the moon and the bright star Pollux are in conjunction in the western evening sky. Slide number 11. On May 3rd, the moon, Mars, and M44, also known as the Beehive star cluster, are in conjunction in the western evening sky. Slide number 12. On the next evening, on May 4th, the planet and M44, also known as the Beehive star cluster, are in conjunction and even closer than the night before in the western evening sky. This is Virginia, MB5S, and you are listening to Skynet. I know I'm not Chaz, but you left me lots of great information. Slide master, slide number 13. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of this information? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? If I can't answer it since I'm not Chaz, there might be someone here who can. If you have a question or need a fill, please come now with your call sign. Okay, nothing heard, and slide number 14. So as the moon wanes next week, so do these words from this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Until next time, actually, I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you will always know what's up. Again, this is Virginia MB5S, and this is Skynet, back to net control.
Thank you, Virginia. This is WB5OZL. Next up, space exploration and space history. This is sort of a collaboration with me and KE5ICX, but he's going to be reading it tonight. So please go ahead, Tom.
Brenda, the keys to the International Space Station have just changed hands. Cosmonaut Alexei Ochenin of the Russian space agency Roscosmos passed control of the orbiting lab over to Tayuka Onishi of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, in a change of command ceremony this afternoon. That would have been April 18th, yesterday. Take care of her station, he said, after handing him the symbolic key to the International Space Station. It's our everything. The ceremony was one of the final orbital events for Ochenin, fellow cosmonauts Ivan Wagner and NASA Don Pettit The trio arrived at the International Space Station aboard the Russian Soyuz spacecraft on September 11th and are scheduled to depart on Saturday, April 19th at 5:57 p.m. I believe they have already separated. They may be home. I'm not sure what their path is. Says the undocking will mark the official end of the station's current Expedition 72, which Ochenyan commanded, and the start of Expedition 73 with Nishi in control. If all goes according to plan, the Soyuz landing are carrying Ochenyan, Pettit, and Wagner will touch down on the steppe of Kazakhstan on Saturday around 9:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So we're past that, obviously. So I hope they're home. I haven't checked to see. Okay. Next up, a newly discovered comet Swan at C2025F2 may be disintegrating as it approaches the Sun. Only a week ago, it seemed firmly on track to become a naked-eye object at the beginning of May. Now it has lost its tail, and while its nucleus refuses to brighten beyond 9th magnitude, some astronomers are having trouble even finding it in the morning sky. B. We have Marcia Evans. She flew STS 32, 46, 62, 81, 98. She was, by the way, her call sign's KC5WKF. Next, John Phillips flew STS 100, Soyuz TMA 6, Expedition 11, STS 119. He also was a ham, KE5DRY. Next up, April 15th, 1951, Gregory Harbo flew STS 39, 54, 71, and 82. Next, April 16th, 1956, this would be David Brown. He flew STS 107. He was KC5ZTC. He is a silent T, by the way. Next is Michael Barrett, Soyuz TMA 14, Expedition 1920 and 20, STS 133. He was on SpaceX Crew 8, launched on 3/4/2024. He is call sign KD5MIJ. And then finally, believe it or not, that guy coming back from space, he also was on Skynet several years ago. Don Pettit, who we just talked about, April 20th, 1955 is his birthday tomorrow. So he gets a double whammy. He gets to come home, and he celebrates a birthday. He was on Expedition 6, STS 126, Expedition 3031. His call is KD5MDT. By the way, he's a very punny guy. Space history, we have April 14th, 1629, Christian Huygens was born in the Netherlands to a wealthy Dutch family. Growing up, he studied languages and music, history and geography, mathematics, and more. Eventually, he studied law and mathematics at the University of Leiden. Huygens wrote the first treatise on probability theory, made telescopes, and discovered Saturn's rings and its moon Titan. 350 years after his discovery, the Huygens probe, named in his honor, landed on Titan. The probe made numerous discoveries regarding the nature of Titan and returned photos of Titan's surface. On this date, 1981, the first space shuttle mission, STS-1, landed at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Space Shuttle Columbia flew this mission, and 4 that followed. STS-1 demonstrated a successful launch and, perhaps most importantly, return of the world's first reusable spacecraft. The orbiter sustained tile damage upon launch due to the overpressure wave created by the solid rocket boosters. Subsequent modifications to the water sound suppression systems at the launch pad remedied the situation. On April 16, 1972, Apollo 16 launched from Kennedy Space Center with John Young, Charlie Duke, and Ken Mattingly as the crew. The next to last Apollo mission to the moon, the objective was landing on the rugged Descartes Islands. Among the instruments placed on the moon by Apollo 16 was the first astronomical observatory placed on another celestial body. This far ultraviolet camera spectrograph was developed by George Crothers of the Naval Research Laboratory. We have a missing sentence there, but at any rate. April 17, 1970, Apollo 13 returned to Earth after narrowly avoiding a deadly disaster in space. This is supposed to be the third mission to land on the moon. Astronauts Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes launched on April 11th and were 2 days into their trip to the moon when an oxygen tank exploded. NASA had to abort the mission. Luckily, they survived re-entry and safely splashed down in the Pacific Ocean. In 2014, NASA's Lunar Atmosphere and Dust Environmental Explorer, known as LADEE, ended its mission by crashing into the moon. LADEE had spent 7 months orbiting the moon and studying its exosphere. The exosphere is a thin layer of gas that's kind of like an atmosphere, but the molecules are more spread out and are definitely not breathable. LADEE conducted the lunar dust experiment in which it collected and analyzed the dust particles floating around the exosphere. This experiment was intended to help NASA solve the mystery behind the faint glow Apollo astronauts reported seeing on the lunar surface. LADEE discovered neon in the exosphere, but it wasn't enough to account for the glow, and the mystery remains unresolved. When LADEE ran out of fuel, NASA intentionally crashed it onto the lunar surface. It was traveling at 3,600 miles per hour during the crash and created a crater almost 10 feet wide. On April 19, 1971, the Soviet Union launched the world's first space station, Salyut-1. This station was a modified version of the Soviet Union's Almaz space station, which was part of the highly classified military program and was still under development at the time. After NASA managed to put astronauts on the moon, the Soviet Union decided its next big feat in the space race would be to put a crewed space station in orbit. The first crew to visit Salyut-1 in orbit launched just 4 days after the space station did. However, that crew had some technical problems while trying to dock with the space station in their Soyuz 10 spacecraft, so they went back home without ever actually entering the station. Another crew launched 2 months later on Soyuz 11 mission, and after a successful docking, they spent 23 days aboard the station. However, during the Soyuz 11 crew's return to Earth, a pressure valve on their spacecraft opened early during their descent. The 3 crew members died during re-entry as a result. Salyut-1 remained in orbit until October 11, 1971, when flight controllers commanded the station engines to fire and intentionally crashed it into the Pacific Ocean. The world's first space station spent 175 days in orbit during its mission lifetime. And that's it, Brenda. Back to you. This is KE5 ICX.
Thank you so much, Tom. Next up, we've got Chaz's Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, but he's not here tonight. So Virginia, November Victor 5 Foxtrot, will read it. Go ahead, Virginia.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. And again, this is Virginia in D5S. Chaz, I believe, is at Texas Star Party, and I hope they're getting to see some stars. It's pretty cloudy out there. So here we go with Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week for April 19th, 2025. Slide Master, slide number 15. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of a silent key, Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 usually visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations. So Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. This week is Crater the Cup and Corvus the Crow. Slide Master, slide number 16. How do you find Crater and Corvus? Let's start with something that I have already talked about. Virgo has a bright star called Spica. If you just go down south and a little to the right, west from Spica, you will run into constellations of Corvus and Crater. But first, the jokes of the week, slide number 17. And I probably won't be able to make these as funny as Chaz, so you guys just bear with me. All right, what do you call an illness that targets crows? Anybody? Anyone? COVID-19. Why are ravens so smart? Well, it's because they spend all their time hanging out at the college. Get it? College. Caw. Okay. I saved a tiny baby raven, and now he won't leave. I guess you could say he's micro. Get it, micro? Okay. Yeah, I'm not as good at this as Chad. Before the invention of the crowbar, crows drank at home. And what's the difference between a raven and a crow? Pinion feathers are the feathers at the tip of a bird's wing that allows it to fly. They're also the ones that people will trim to prevent birds from flying away. Crows have 5 pinion feathers, while ravens have 6. So if you think about it, the difference between a crow and a raven, it's really just a matter of opinion. Slide Master, slide number 18. An optimist says, the cup is half full. A pessimist says, the cup is half empty. The optometrist says, you both need glasses. Okay, that was pretty funny. Y'all have to agree, that was funny. I learned from my friend John Cotton that an optimist says the cup is half full. A pessimist says the cup is half empty. The engineer says the cup is too big for the amount of water that you have. That sounds like something an engineer would say. Okay, what do you call a sad cup of coffee? Espresso. Someone stole my favorite coffee cup right off my desk at work. Now I have to go down to the police station and look at some mug shots. Oh, yeah, that's if a cup has had holy water in it, a vampire should never drink from it. There's too much risk of cross-contamination. And last but not least, a king has 3 cups in front of him. The first 2 cups are full, the third cup is empty. What is the king's name? King Philip III. Oh, okay. That's okay. Dang, Chaz. All right. This is Virginia, NV5F, and I take no responsibility for any of these jokes. Slide Master, slide number 19. The constellation of Crater represents the goblet or cup of Apollo. There is a reason that the 3 constellations of Crater, Corvus, and Hydra are together in the sky. It's because they're all from the same story in Greek mythology, where Apollo gave his cup to Corvus, the crow, or raven, and sent him on a mission to fetch the waters of life. However, Corvus was lazy and rested in a tree while waiting for its fruit to ripen, while he ate after a lengthy rest. When Corvus finally fetched the water, He also brought back a water snake, using it to lie to Apollo, saying that the snake delayed him. Apollo saw through the lie and angrily threw the crow, the cup, and the water snake into the sky, where they became the constellations Corvus, Crater, and Hydra. Gamma Crateris is a fairly easy double star. The primary star in the pair is a white A-type main sequence star and shines at a magnitude of plus 4.08, while the companion shines at a magnitude of plus 9.6. The system is 84 light years from our solar system. Slide master, slide number 20. NGC 3513 is a magnitude 11 large spiral galaxy with some irregular structure. The central bar is fairly easy to make out in a 17-inch glass telescope. Some of the spiral arm structure may be seen, but with difficulty. Slide master, slide number 21. NGC 3511 is another barred spiral galaxy of type SBBC. It is a magnitude plus 12 and is 4 by 1 arcminute in area. This galaxy is seen obliquely, which makes it difficult to clearly resolve the spiral arms. NGC 3511 and NGC 3513 together make a nice galaxy field. And this is Virginia, NG5F, in for Chaz here on Skynet. Slide master, slide number 22. Corvus is a Latin word that means crow or raven. In taxonomy, the science of animal classification, the genus Corvus includes both crows and ravens. Corvus and the neighboring constellation of Crater, the Cup, both appear to be riding on the back of Hydra, the water snake. Algorab, Delta Corvi, is an Arabic word that means raven. Algorab is a double star and is easily split. Its binary nature was first noted by John Herschel and J. South in 1823. No change in position or separation has been seen between the two stars since then, but Algorab is a true binary star because both stars share the same proper motion. The brighter star appears and shines at magnitude 2.95, while the companion is at magnitude 8.5. Opinions differ as to the color of the two stars, ranging from white and orange to pale yellow and purple. Slide master, slide number 23. The Stargate, quoting from a Task Spectrum newsletter article, the Stargate cluster is an asterism found by task member John Wagner while he was searching for M104 with his binoculars. This grouping of stars reminded John of the Stargate used by Buck Rogers to travel into outer space, so John named it Stargate. Officially, the cluster is categorized as SPS 1659. This is from the catalog of Frederick Struve, who first noted the group in 1832. The Stargate is also known as HD 109556. The cluster consists of a set of 6 stars that form a set of nested equilateral triangles. John named this group the Stargate at the Texas Star Party back in the 1980s, and the name stuck. There is actually an arrow of stars pointing at the Stargate. Slide master, slide number 24. M104, the Sombrero Galaxy, NGC 4594, is really in Virgo, but it is so close to the Virgo-Corvus border that it's tempting to include it here. Besides, before the constellation boundaries were formalized by the IAU in 1930, M104 was often listed as being in Corvus. Many astronomers believe that M104 is an outlying member of the Virgo cluster of galaxies. In his book, The Messier Objects, Stephen J. O'Meara notes that M104 has a place in history. In 1913, Festo Slipper of Lowell Observatory studied the spectrum of M104 and became the first astronomer to detect rotation in a galaxy other than our own. Slide Master, slide number 25. NGC 4027 is another unusual galaxy. It is located very close to the antenna galaxy, about 40 arc-minutes away, and both it and the antenna can fit in the same low-power field of view. However, it is a bit difficult to see, so you'll need a clear, dark, moonless night to find it. Robert Burnham Jr. in Burnham's Celestial Handbook notes that in 1943, Harlow Shapley wrote that NGC 4027 and NGC 4038/4039 are almost certainly physically associated or have been. Burnham writes that this probable companion system to NGC 4038 and 4039 resembles a one-armed spiral with its single tail curving to the north and east in the general direction of the ringtails. The projected separation of the two systems is about 1 million light years, which implies that the interaction, if any, must have occurred at some distant time when the separation was much less. And this is Virginia. My call sign is NV5S, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 26. There are a few more astronomical League Observing Program objects in the constellation of the Crater, the Cup, and Corvus the Crow. I have just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has at last count, 74 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year. Slide number 27. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Crater the Cup and Corvus the Crow. I want to thank, or Chaz would like to thank his friends Dave Hutchison and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that he has used, borrowed, and stolen for almost every Skynet. He also, at times, uses the website www.constellation-guide.com for information. Next week, we will take a look at Ursa Major, the Big Bear, and Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. Again, this is Virginia in D5S, in for Chaz, and this is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Thank you, good night, and 7-3, back to Net Control.
Thank you very much, Virginia. This is WB5OZL. We picked up another online check-in, AG9SG, Antonio. Do we have any other online or over-the-air check-ins now? Okay, next up, space launches for this week. Call on Tom, KE5ICX, to present those. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Brenda. This may have already happened. I don't know. It's somewhat secret. Annual 145 launch, SLC-4E at Vandenberg. This will be another batch of satellites supporting the National Reconnaissance Office, or NRO, Proliferated Architecture Constellation. The agency's stated goal is to build and fortify the largest government constellation in history, with proliferated launches continuing through 2029. This will be the fourth launch for this constellation this year and the 10th overall. A little more than 8 minutes after liftoff, first stage booster will target a landing on the drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. Falcon 9 launch on April 21st. This will be CRS-32 from Complex 39A at Kennedy. This mission is to the International Space Station. The flight will carry thousands of pounds of science, investigations, technology demonstration, and other consumables to the orbiting outpost to support the crew on board. Crew Dragon spacecraft will remain docked to the ISS for about a month before undocking and returning to Earth for a splashdown off the coast of California. First stage booster used to launch this mission will target landing back at landing zone 1 or 2 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. April 21st, 22nd, overnight, Bandwagon 3 will launch from SOC 40 at Cape Canaveral. This rideshare mission targets a mid-inclination low orbit. The first stage will return for its touchdown at landing zone 1 or 2. This is the third of these Bandwagon rideshare missions. Next up will be the Alpha mission, message in a booster, on April 27th. This will also launch from Vandenberg. Firefly Aerospace Alpha rocket will launch a Lockheed Martin LM-400 satellite bus to low Earth orbit. The sixth launch of the Alpha rocket, designated FLTA-006, marks the second flight within a multi-launch agreement between Firefly Aerospace and Lockheed Martin, which may include up to 25 missions with a 5-year time frame. Next up, the Kuiper 1 mission. This will be determined on an Atlas V. This will be from SLC 41 at Cape Canaveral. The Atlas V rocket will launch a batch 27 of Amazon's Project Kuiper Internet satellites. These are the first production satellites that will make up Amazon's satellite Internet mega constellation, which will include 3,236 satellites. ULA is launching its Atlas V in the 551 configuration, which features 5 solid rocket boosters and a medium-length payload fairing. April 29th, the Vega C. This will be from Conroe, French Guiana. The Vega C rocket will launch the European Space Agency's Earth Explorer biomass satellite to the sun-synchronous orbit at an altitude of 413 miles. Biomass features a P-band synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, and is designed to collect information on the height and structure of different forest types and measure the amount of carbon stored in the world's forests and how it changes over time. In addition, the biomass mission will map subsurface geology in deserts, the ice structure of ice sheets, and the topography of forest floors. This mission is also referred to as VD-26, and will be the fourth launch of the Vega C rocket. Other missions of note will be the New Glenn launch of Escapade. This will be from Launch Complex 36. This is in the spring of 2025. We're winding close to the end of that, but let's see here. It says a Blue Origin New Glenn rocket will launch a pair of identical spacecraft, NASA's Escape and Plasma Acceleration and Dynamics Explorers, or Escapade mission. The two satellites are named Blue and Gold and will make a roughly 11-month journey to Mars, where they will perform an 11-month science mission while orbiting the Red Planet. Blue and Gold were manufactured by Rocket Lab over the last 3.5 years to carry scientific experiments to the University of California, Berkeley. After that, in May, we have the Falcon 9 Axiom Mission 4, AX-4. This will launch from 39A at Cape Kennedy. The former NASA astronaut, Axiom Space Director of Human Space Flight, will serve as the commander of the mission. This will be the 5th trip to space and her 2nd time commanding a private astronaut mission. Shubhanshu Shukla, an Indian Air Force pilot and astronaut with the India Space Research Organization, or ISRO, will be the pilot aboard the SpaceX Crew Dragon. Salas Unansky-Veneniski, a Polish member of the European Space Agency's astronaut reserve class of 2022, and Tibor Kapu, a Hungarian member of the Hungarian to Orbit, or HUNAR, astronaut program, will serve as the mission specialist. These 4 astronauts will spend up to 14 days docked to the ISS after launching from NASA's Kennedy Space Center on a Falcon 9 rocket. Following stage separation, the booster will target a touchdown at landing zone 1 at Cape Canaveral. And finally, GPS-3 SP-08 will launch from SOC 40 at Cape Canaveral. This will be the 8th, there's no date for it, but it is in May, the 8th Global Positioning System satellite built by Lockheed Martin. GPS-3, Space Vehicle 08, is named in honor of mathematician Katherine Johnson, whose calculations contribute significantly to early human space flight. The Falcon 9 first stage booster will target landing in the drone ship positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. And Brett, if you'd like, I'll do Heavens Above after this. Up to you. KE5 ICX.
Yes, we'd love it if you did that. Go ahead. KE5 ICX.
All right, thank you, Brenda. We do have some ISS passes. I have to admit, most of these are partial passes. They're coming out of shadow, so while they have high magnitude ratings, they aren't in the sky for very long because they're mostly in shadow, come out of shadows, and then go over the horizon. We do have one on April 20th, minus 3.9 magnitude, which sounds great, but it's at 5:15. It'll be at 75 degrees when it comes out of shadow, and it will be at 5:18, or 3 minutes later, it will fall to the horizon in the northeast. April 22nd, minus 2.2 magnitude, 5:15 a.m. That one also comes out of shadow at 23 degrees, falls to the north-northeast at 5:18 at 10 degrees. April 24th, we've got a minus 1.1 magnitude, 6:15 a.m. It'll reach its highest point at 5:16 at 10 degrees, low on the horizon, but at least this is a full pass. It'll fall to the north-northwest at 5:17. Tiangong is the Chinese space station in orbit. There are a few passes, actually two of them that are pretty good. April 19th, let's see the time, that 9:32. That one already went, so April 20th, that would be tomorrow, minus 1.9 magnitude at 20:31 local time. It'll reach its highest point at 20:34 at 60 degrees, and it'll fall to the southeast at 20:37. And Brenda, that's it. That's all I got. Back to you, KE5 ICX.
Thank you, Tom. All right, we're just right on time here. Tonight we had 20 hams participating on the air. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. Hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5sc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, our video archives, and other useful Internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WB5OZL, Brenda. I'll be closing the net at 10:23 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. Send to everybody and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. But wait, there's more. We'll be back here in a few minutes for the Afterglow movie net. Tom, you want to tell us what time to meet back here?
And we'll start at 10:30, so as soon as 10:30 comes up, we'll begin the net then. KE5 ICX.
Thank you. This is WB5OZL.
normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
All right, let's go ahead and get this thing going. This is KE5ICX. I'll be in net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. Tonight's movie, The Underwater City from 1962. Yes, 78 minutes long, $350,000 production cost budget, with lots of people you never heard of before. But this movie was a 1962 American science fiction film in Eastern color. Yes, color. About overcoming engineering obstacles for establishing an underwater living environment. The film was directed by Frank McDonald, produced by Alex Gordon, and written by Gordon's wife, Ruth Alexander. Oh, boy. Columbia Pictures released the film as a double feature with The Three Stooges Meet Hercules. So the short synopsis is as follows. Dr. Halstead of the Institute of Oceanography hires Bob Gage to supervise the construction of an underwater city. If humans are going to blow themselves sky high at some point in the future, it might be a good idea to have an escape hatch down in the bottom of the ocean. I think we're talking about the hydrogen bomb here. Gage falls in love with Dr. Halstead's niece, Dr. Monica Powers, who makes a mean cup of coffee, by the way. A series of underwater living units are carefully created and tested until it seems that they are ready for residents to move in. What no one considers is the sea floor, and the sea itself may not be as stable as expected. Oh well. Let's see here. This was originally shown in black and white in theaters. It was later released to television in color. The filming was fraught with conflict, leading to a lawsuit by Neptune Productions against Columbia Pictures. Alex Gordon recalls that his wife was inspired by an article in America Weekly magazine about scientists growing food on the ocean floor. Gordon also recalled that the original choice for Dr. Halstead was Raymond Massey, and he was replaced when he couldn't arrive in time to commence production. The film was originally supposed to be the first of a six-picture deal with Columbia for Gordon, but the deal was dropped. Now, just as an elaboration on the black and white distribution, you got to remember, sure, the film cost money to do in color, but it cost less money to make black and white prints and send them around the country. So I would suspect, especially with it paired with it as a double feature, to go ahead and do a cheaper version of the film and not to upstage the other film potentially. I don't know. All I know is there is more money. and always has been, until we got into video and all that good stuff. In which case, then I think black and white became more costly. All right, with that, that's all I got. I was looking to see if there was anything else, but it was very short. And for those of us who watched the film, we know why it's a short synopsis, because there isn't a lot that goes on the thing except people bumping into one another and the underwater city having some trouble with braking, I think. Okay, so this is what we'll do. First thing we'll do is take check-ins, and we'll get your call sign, your name, and did you see the film. You do not necessarily have to have seen the film. This is an underwater adventure, so if you got something better you'd like to talk about, by all means, bring it up. We'll probably enjoy that conversation more than the underwater city, but you never know. So we'll do that with check-ins. After that, we'll go ahead and do our first round, which is talking about the plot, such as it is. Second round, discuss the acting, such as it was. And the third part, if we make it that far, anything we may have missed, and of course, special and not so special effects. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll take check-ins. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see the underwater city? Please come now.
This is WV5OZL. Name's Brenda. Yes, I saw this. And please don't call this an adventure. You're insulting our intelligence.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill and Irving. Yep, I saw this movie.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony and Dallas. I saw this infomercial or something.
Kilo 9 Alpha Hotel Oscar, Brian and Terrell, and I saw this on double speed.
Okay, there's applause in the action. Let me get those four folks. I got WB5OZL, Brenda, yes, she saw the film. N5DD, Mr. Bill, yes, he saw the film. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, yes, he saw the film. And K9AHO, Brian, yes, he saw the film at double speed. That probably made it about almost watchable. Anyone else want to join us? Please come to your call sign name. Did you see the underwater city from 1962?
November, Victor 5, Foxtrot. This is Virginia. I kind of watched it. I had it on sort of in the background while I was doing something else in V5S.
Okay, we picked up one more. We got ND5F of Virginia. Let me look over on Echolink. I don't see anyone. I'll go ahead and ask. Anybody over on Echolink like to check in? Please come out. Okay, this may be a quickie. I'm not sure why we have light check-ins tonight, but that's okay. We've got folks. Maybe there'll be some latecomers a little bit. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll go down in order. We'll begin with plot, or such as it is. Brenda, WB5OZL, what do you think about the plot to our fine film?
And WV5OZL. I'd like to comment our check-ins for Skynet were a little bit slim. Also, I think the holiday weekend means a lot of people are out of town, and that's probably why we're a little short tonight. It's not because this was not a wonderful film. Where do I start on the plot? So many holes. First of all, it was pointless. Why do you need an underground city? You sure an underground lab or maybe an underground hotel? But I didn't see any point for them just living there just like they would in a high-rise apartment. Plenty of reason to study and such, but I'm just not buying the fact that they made this gourmet meal out of everything from the sea. They could have had a lot of food from there, but not a real, not a complete meal, I think. I love how they just walked on the bottom. They didn't even use flippers. They didn't even try to pretend they were underwater. They just walked around on a set in their scuba gear. So that was pretty cool. One major problem with this is them saying, if there's a nuclear war, we'll be safe down here. Yeah, no you won't. Nuclear winter causes the oceans to cool, and it kills off the phytoplankton, which is the bottom of the food chain. And if they die, then everything up chain dies. There won't be a whole lot of life left in the ocean. There'll be some, but they really misspoke that it was, there was going to be plenty of food down there, because a nuclear winter would be devastating for the ocean. Oh, I couldn't tell the people apart. That's always one of my pet peeves. And it just wasn't very interesting. I'll just say that. It just didn't have much going for it. All right, back to Nat, WB50ZL.
Carl Sagan, A Life, a book about, biography about Carl Sagan. He's the one that came up with the nuclear winter thing. And I think that was around 1980-ish type of thing, and it was relatively new back then. Nobody had thought about, they thought that they could, fight limited nuclear wars and survive, and he was the one that brought up nuclear winter and said, nope, can't do that. So that was a relatively new and controversial idea at the time. But that doesn't make it any less true, but maybe to the people who are making this film, they wouldn't be aware of that. Next up is Bill, N5BB. Bill, what did you think of our fine film, plot-wise, from KE5 ICS?
Well, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. The plot was thin. Amphibia City. Wow, what a name. It was 30 fathoms deep. By the way, a fathom is 6 feet, so that's 180 feet deep, which is a bit deeper than you can dive with a regular recreational scuba set. You have to have some special equipment to go down that far if you're just diving. By the way, I looked it up. The pressure down there, the additional pressure by the water would be about 6.5 atmospheres of additional pressure. So it's quite a bit of pressure on the bodies and things. Number of things about the plot bothered me. The first thing was you start off with this boring, dry narrator giving all this descriptive thing. So I'm thinking, if the whole movie is going to be like this, it's going to be a boring mess. So it was nearly that bad. Not completely, but it was nearly that boring. But the first part of it was really just, oh man, I was going to go sleep with that. They made comments about what's going to happen when the Earth has twice as many people. In 1962, the Earth had 3.1 million people, and it had 6.2 million in 2001. So the movie says we'll be going to Jupiter in 2001. And the population was actually twice as much as 1962. Let's see. So it did grow. But there's obviously not going to be very many people down there if they put the things in such horrible locations. This is Inside BB. So the thing's a plot that just bothered me. All these people go down there, and they dress up in suits and high heels. The women are always wearing high heels. Who would think they'd be going to a experimental underground habitat dressed up in suits with ties and the women wearing high heels and tight dresses? This is just totally wacko. They had a honeymoon suite, which was kind of pushing it. But they kind of spiced up the movie with that. They didn't show them very much. They could have showed us a little bit more there about the honeymoon suite, but they didn't show us anything till the end. The part which was stretched out, so it was boring, of the squid fighting the starfish. I've heard of giant squid, but not giant starfish. So obviously they had some little tiny squid, little tiny starfish, regular-sized starfish fighting somewhere, and they filmed it. I knew they had to have something with undersea animals having a fight or threatening humans or something, but you didn't see the sharks or the squids or anything hurting people. They talked about somebody was killed by a shark, but you never saw it. So I don't know. Their photography was just to kind of get us worked up, but they didn't really work at the plot very well. They just dumped it in there. I did not figure out why. Number one, that all this sinking down below the seafloor made no sense at all. So they're in some kind of scuba gear. And although they said something about lead boots, I didn't understand why. All the kinds of scuba things I've ever heard of, they've got flotation things so they can go up and down in the water column, or they can relieve themselves of some weights to go up. But the moment these people broke through the seafloor, they went down quick. Why? Why didn't they just release their weights or make the flotation work? That didn't make any sense at all. And it was like it was just a crust you could break through. I've never seen any. I can't imagine something being that brittle surface that you could break through and just fall through like that. That was goofy. And, just because the geologist died early on, why didn't they follow through with the rest of that? That made no sense at all. Bad science. Bad. And the whole idea of starting off like the first scene with somebody dying was kind of a bummer. What else about the plot can I rattle on about? I guess it's it. It was not very good. In fact, and of course, you knew that once they got everybody down there for the big party that something bad was going to happen. You knew that. There was no mystery to the plot. I guess that's all. Inside BB.
Well, thank you, Bill. I did read somewhere, and I tried to find it again. Sometimes I do a little research before we actually watch the movie, and then I forget where I found the information. I can't find it again, but I read somewhere, but couldn't find it again, that the movie was also released without, or there are copies without the long, boring narration that runs through it, the Dick and Jane stuff that we had to endure with that monotone voice. But I don't know that for a fact. I seem to remember I've read that. But at any rate, just to let you know, if you ever want to watch the film again, you have a hankering for the film, there may be one without the narration. It might actually make it better. Tony, NT5TM. Tony, what did you think of our fine film from KE5ICX?
Well, it was generally well exposed, and it was in focus pretty much all the time, so good for them there. I want to agree with both Brenda and Bill. Okay, yeah, they hadn't officially discovered nuclear winter yet, but they'd still had things like Operation Crossroads, the first atomic tests in the ocean, which had showed that water transmitted nuclear blast even better than air did. So one nuclear depth charge would have blown up any number of underwater cities. And the entire point of fallout, of course, is that it falls down. Down, that's why we call it fallout, not float around. It's called fallout. So, of course, it will all eventually end up lower down, like where you are underwater. Yep. Things like oxygen toxicity and the raptures of the deep were well known by then. That was way too deep for recreational scuba divers without a dive plan. That was insane. Yep, random deaths. Just, hey, someone's gotten eaten by an eel. Someone's gotten sucked under underwater quicksand. That didn't. It was just so mispaced. Boring. Rush to the end. I mean, how are we supposed to enjoy that? The octopus versus eel battle. Yeah, it had some annoying music, but again, how are we supposed to enjoy that? Boring. Rush at the end. Just not a good plot. Badly mispaced. Totally ignored underwater concussion and fallout and all the things they already knew about diving. Bad science fiction, bad writing. Sure glad this guy's contract got canceled. I wouldn't have wanted to watch 5 more films of his. NT5TM.
Man, talk about negativity. Who doesn't love all that mid-century furniture and the fondue party they had? That was great. And that honeymoon pad, man, that was great. I just felt like pulling out a bunch of LPs, putting them on the turntable, and letting them play all night long on the hi-fi. Oh well. Okay. Next up is Brian. Brian, K9AHO. You did something smart and watched this thing at warp speed. That probably made the movie almost watchable. You tell us. What do you think? What did you think of the plot, too, from KE5ICX?
Well, I have to say this is a movie I really wanted to like. I'm a scuba diver, and I grew up in the 70s, so in the background, you know, the Jacques Cousteau specials and all of those things were, you know, a big part of what I look forward to on TV. And when I started watching this one, I was like, what in the wonderful world of Disney Mutual of Omaha Wild Kingdom is this? It seemed as though all of the folks that were responsible for the stock footage for those shows got together and said, hey, let's do some entertainment. And I was unfortunately disappointed as it went on. But I was also entertained by a lot of things. A couple of things I jotted down as I was watching. The slow motion acting as the divers emerged from the walk, the gangplank, I guess, of the submarine. It immediately evoked the Star Trek battle scenes where everyone was play acting that, you know, the Starship Enterprise was under attack. And I was rewarded at the very end that, yes, indeed, the submarine city ended up having some damage, and they did indeed do that acting. I haven't looked at when Star Trek came out to see if it was which predated which, but we might have been seeing some of the prototype of that Star Trek acting. I smiled at the random deaths, I have to say, just because they reminded me of the game The Oregon Trail. It seems like at every turn, oh, you died of dysentery. This time, oh, you died of moray eel. I laughed at the soap bubbles that were coming up from the regulators instead of actual bubbles. I thought that was kind of clever, but also maybe a little Lawrence Welk. I wanted to enjoy it, and I ended up enjoying it, but not for the reasons that I would have hoped. I was able to understand what was going on just fine at double speed, and still I was wishing for triple speed, K9AHO.
Oh, thank you, Brian. Yeah, I noticed that too. Bubbles, but, well, all right. Virginia, NV5F. Your thoughts on plot? You're up from KE5I6.
Okay, well, Tony's being very cynical, and Tom is over there spinning his very white albums. I will try to have something to say about this because I really didn't watch it that close, but I listened, and it had the really obvious things. It had the reluctant hero, quote unquote, who really wanted to be doing space things, but these people decided that the answer is going underwater, then you had the trope in all of these science fiction things, especially in the 50s and 60s. If it wasn't like a Buck Rogers kind of thing, with the damsel in distress ladies, they always figured out a way to insinuate, pretty ladies into things. Even in the first part of 2001, you had the pretty space station ladies with their high heels and their pink uniforms. Of course, then you read the stuff, the reviews of 2001, and all the feminists of the day were hacked off that the ladies in 2001 were just pretty ladies, and that there weren't any ladies on the Discovery later on. But I digress, which I will always digress towards 2001. It's my nature. So you had that, and then, of course, the honeymoon thing was so silly because I can't imagine any woman whose husband would call her up and go, hey, honey, instead of going on a honeymoon like we were going to, let's just go under the sea into this dangerous experimental thing where they would never let just random people go in there, But the narration I loved because it also reminds me of another 2001 thing. To me, narration smacks of agenda and propaganda, and the original intent for 2001: A Space Odyssey was to have lots of narration all the way through the movie. They even recorded the narration. They were even supposed to open the movie with some interviews, so that they could orient the audience and give them context. And there's an article or a diary entry or something I just read recently from Fred Ordway, who was one of the NASA guys who consulted on 2001, and he ripped Stanley Kubrick directly and just told him you need to put the narration back in. No one can understand what's going on in this movie because there's no narration. And I think that was kind of something he did because he had decided about halfway through that, or maybe even before he started, that this wasn't going to be pro-space propaganda, which is kind of how he had sold it to the studio. And this was definitely undersea living propaganda, akin to, it reminds me of a lot of the, Arthur C. Clarke had a whole undersea, living undersea and farming the oceans. He had a whole, like, phase where he was all into that. There's even a book about, one of his fiction books is about that. And he lived in Sri Lanka, and he loved diving and reefs, and you know, that was one of his favorite things, was to, like, do undersea exploring, you know, diving. That was one of his side things. So this kind of made me think of him, and all the narration was like, it can't decide what it wants to be, whether it wants to be a documentary about what we think the future is going to be like, and how it's going to save us from nuclear war and overpopulation, and you know, overpopulation was, I don't know, it was it was obviously a myth, because we're still here, and we've got, what, like 9 billion people or something. We're doing fine. We got plenty of space, I promise. And the nuclear thing. And, you know, to me, like, I'm getting a little into round 3 kind of stuff here, but I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to the specific plot. It sounds like it was just a string of mishaps, kind of like a Swiss Family Robinson's movie or something. Anyway, it makes me think of now people who really are trying to convince themselves and everyone that the way to save humanity now is to build a colony on Mars. You know, I think we do better trying to colonize under the oceans than trying to colonize Mars. But anyway, the plot, I liked there were submarines in it. I love submarines, so I dug that. And then it was your typical plot where you have this big moment, and there's no anticlimax at all. There's no wind down. It's just like, oh, there's one little room left, and we can all cram into it. How are we going to survive in here? Oh, it's okay. Here's the submarine. It's come to rescue us. The end. So that's kind of what I thought was hilarious, was that the plot just kind of, maybe they ran out of film or something. It was going to be 100 minutes long, and they made it 80 minutes long because they just ran out of money or film, or got tired of suing each other or whatever. But, you know, it had the standard people and the standard, you know, putting women into roles that they wouldn't normally have been in at that time, just so they could have, you know, love interests and romances and those kind of plot lines. And I thought the honeymoon plot was pretty silly, but I don't know. I'm enjoying y'all's enjoyment of it, and I kind of enjoyed just listening to it and kind of glancing over now and then and seeing the wonderfully murky underwater sequences. And yeah. So anyway, I'm looking forward to what y'all are going to say about the next stuff in V5F.
Thank you, Virginia. I took notes on everybody, so I got a few comments along the way. But first, before we do that, I'll ask if there's any additional check-ins. Tonight's movie is The Underwater City from 1962. Please come and call your name. Did you see the film? Well, I guess it's going to be slim pickings tonight. That's okay. Let's see here. What did I say? Oh yeah, a few things. First off, dreadfully slow. Lots of exposition heavy for whatever reason. The movie was an hour and 20 minutes long. It probably could have been done in about 45 minutes and still had padding. Just not a lot going on here. The wife of Frank McDonald, I guess it was, who was the one that came up with the story, Ruth Alexander, and she said, "Wow, let's do an underwater thing. That's a big deal. It's very exciting." And okay, you write it. Okay, I wrote it, and it's all boring because nobody cares. It's this long, plodding thing that goes on and on. Let's see, one of the things, well, in the first 5 minutes we kill somebody off, and they're going, oh, well, we killed somebody off. Is this going to set us back any time? Probably the police investigation might take a little while. Don't worry about it. We'll work around them. You know, can't you see the police line underwater and all that, trying to find the body, and then they do find the body, and they go, oh, we found the body, we'll bring it back and stick it in your lap. Okay, thanks. Everybody want to go to lunch? Let's go to lunch. You lunch? Okay, let's go. The body's not going anywhere, and we don't have to buy lunch for him. You know, that sort of thing. And then the second guy dies, and it's like, 0 days since the latest undersea disaster. Nobody cares. Just another one dead. No wives to call or sad people or anything like that. It's just another guy gone. We'll replace him. You can get scientists anywhere. They come with their lab coats. Let's see. There was one thing in there where they were talking about where they lure the guy in, and he's going to build space habitats. He's got a spacesuit he's showing everybody, and it's in blue. It's great. This is going to be wonderful. Forget it. We're not going to do that now. We're going to build something else. What are we going to do? We're going to go under the sea. So instead of doing something exciting like going for the final frontier, we're going to go down and sit in the bottom of an ocean that looks like a fish tank. So there you have it. And pretty much the narrator made sure that we were totally deflated for any excitement whatsoever, ringing out any excitement with that monotone voice going on and on and on. He sounded a little bit like Peter Graves through that, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Bore you to death. The women. We've got the two women. We've got the newlyweds, so the one gal, and then we've got the doctor who is, the heck was she? Nutritionist. Of course she's a nutritionist because she's a woman. She cooks, too. So we got the two women down there making coffee and cooking. This is really great. And doing all the parties and having all those fancy dresses and things to wear. And they bring in everybody from the surface. All those military types say, come on in, we're doing fondue tonight. How exciting. Let's see. There was the very long battle with the eel and the octopus or squid or whatever it was, and then the little tiny miniature boat or submarine or something that's on the bottom of the ocean. Well, nobody noticed it except the one guy who was drinking. I don't know. How could he not notice the submarine next door? But what do I know? Or the whatever it was. It had a railing. That's all I remember. There were things about... I think that was it from my side of it. Yeah, I've got stuff on special effects for later. So I'll go ahead and throw it to the top of the list again. This time we'll be talking about the acting and characterization. This may go fast because I think we had people that were plug-inable and replaceable along the way. But we'll go ahead and start. This will be Brenda, WB50ZL. Tell us about characterization and acting.
WB50ZL. Well, I'll give him credit for one thing. New ground in alcoholism. A guy sneaks his booze and goes underwater to drink. That's pretty desperate. I never understood why they didn't have alcohol just to drink socially. It was like banned or something. And with all that fancy food and high heels and tight skirts, you'd think they'd be doing a lot of elegant parties and then have some nice wine and champagne and things like that down there. But evidently they abolished it, so this poor old alcoholic had to drink underwater, which I just can't. I wonder how much salt water he took in with that. That was just bizarre. A lot of real generic people and real generic relationships. I don't ever try and keep up with that. It's just too boring and to me unimportant. So, you've got the typical tropes there, and it just, there just wasn't a whole lot of relationship development with these people, like you see in a lot of these, with a lot of conflict and romance and fun and games and all kinds of stuff. It's sad when they start killing all people and you're glad. You think, that's one more person I don't have to worry about. And they killed off a few, but not nearly enough. So, not one of these actors is anybody that we have ever heard of. I don't know if they just hired people that didn't really have a career, or if this killed their career. It may have. But, I remember 1962. There were a lot of dumb movies back then, and people went to the drive-in to see them. And my guess is there are a lot of people went to see this and were not as offended by its stupidity as we are. They may have thought it was okay. So I am not signing up for an underwater habitat. I might go to an underwater hotel. But I just wouldn't do it. I want to see the blue sky and hear the birds and have a connection with nature. I would find this very confining. It's be like, never wanted to serve on a submarine, but it'd be kind of like that, where you're confined and never get to see the outside. And this is something they've done by choice. I just think it's a real sterile atmosphere, and not one I would want. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
Five ICF.
You got cut off. All I heard was ICX. Were you trying to turn it to me? This is N5BB.
Yes, sir. You're next. Characterization. It's up to you.
Oh, no. So much pressure on my shoulders. This is N5BB. Well, characterization. We didn't really get to know much about Dr. Carl Wendt because he died. He died before finishing his survey, which doomed the whole project. Dr. Julius Halstead seemed to be the chief leader of the project, but what I couldn't figure out is where did he get the money for the thing from? I mean, was this a scientific research thing? Were some commercial company funding this? The people down there didn't seem to be making something that they were selling, really. They just kind of playing around down there. So I don't know. Where'd the money come from? Who paid him? Who did he work for? Was he a university professor? Or, I don't know. Who was Dr. Julius Halstead? He came back at the end and even got his scuba gear. The project engineer, Bob Gage. I know why we're so down in this movie. Bob Gage wanted to build things that went into space. Okay? So we were disappointed really early in the movie. We thought, oh, maybe it won't be about underwater city. It'll be about an underwater city on another planet. Because Bob Gage was involved and he built things that went into space. But no, Bob let us down. Even even though he was down the project and didn't want to do it, he did do it. And then, because of the bad geophysical report, it all collapsed. Oh, boy. And, of course, then he's trying to convince the girl to come back with him. He had success. The whole project collapsed, so she had to come back with him. What a deal. Let's see. George Burnett, the geophysical engineer that came down, the replacement for the first one that died. Well, the second one died also. He even though he said that the surface was unstable, he proved it by going down through it, which, as I mentioned earlier, made no sense. Why didn't he have buoyancy set up in those things? He wouldn't have sunk like that. That was fake looking. So poor George Burnett goes out to prove that it's not safe, and he dies. Being a geophysical engineer is a bad thing to be in the underwater city. You will die. So let's see, who else? We had the three women, the honeymoon woman, whose new husband says, "Oh, we're going to go down somewhere else on the honeymoon, underwater," and they find a honeymoon little suite for them, and they disappear till the end. Well, we know what was going on there, but they could have made it a little more exciting for us. Instead, it wasn't. And then you had the woman that was the nutritionist, and then the other woman, if I'm not miscounting, was she a doctor? I'm now trying to remember what the other woman did. But anyway, I couldn't figure out exactly what these people were doing with their time to, make money or do research or something. They had some kind of little thing. They talked about gathering fish and showed us things, but we really didn't see, did they have a fish processing pod? Was there a bunch of people that were what were they doing down there? Were they researching things or just living down there? Well, it wasn't really clear on the whole project scope. Let's see. And of course, I should talk about the narrator. The narrator wasn't very exciting. The narrator described what went on in the movie so we would understand it at the start. It was so not interesting. I don't care who the narrator was. I don't really care what he did when he wasn't narrating. His backstory is of no interest to me. Bibi.
Oh, man, how are we going to follow up with that, Bill? Boy, you really smoked the entire cast, but that's okay. Next up is Tony, NG5TM. Tony, you must have found something redeeming from this cast, right? From KE5ICX.
Well, you got one syllable right, except in my case it begins ridiculous rather than redeeming. I really think they underutilized the underwater environment as a character. Movies like Alien and Aliens or 2001, space is a very dangerous and hostile place. The vacuum of space is very threatening. The distances are very great. You're very far from help. Here, it was established very clearly by our exciting narrator that they're building this habitat in a place with a 10-knot current, measured at waist level just above the seabed. I don't know if people have thought about that, but that's actually an astonishing current. A knot and a half is considered extremely strong. That would have the pressure of a greater than hurricane force wind. It should be knocking them off their feet. Things should be flying. The environment should be full of silt. Little pebbles should be going by. Actually, good-sized rocks should be going by. There should be a CNN weather forecaster standing there with a microphone and a raincoat telling everyone else not to stand there with a microphone and a raincoat because conditions are too dangerous. But no, the hazards they have are just ridiculous and contrived. The environment is not done well as a character. Then on top of that, the human characters are boring, forgettable, and interchangeable. I found their clothing to be absolutely dehumanizing. They could have all, both men and women, be wearing burqas as far as I was concerned. The men were all in really boring, identical suits. The women all constantly had their hair in, I don't know, elaborate hairdos that were held together by glue or something, wearing very boring clothing. Just interchangeable, couldn't tell them apart. They completely missed out. Was there a hunky Scottish bodybuilder in swim trunks like Sean Connery? No. Was there a woman in an attractive bathing costume? Of course not. No Ursula Andress here. They missed out on everything. Everything. Who were these characters? I don't know. I don't care. I'm sad they all didn't die of the bends. NT5TM.
Tony, I feel like you had like a voodoo doll or something and were stabbing it with pins while you were watching this film. Each one of the characters' names on each one of the voodoo dolls. You seem somewhat committed to acts of disgust or something like that about these characters. Okay, next up is Brian, K9AHO. Brian, was the characterization and acting better at twice the speed? You tell us, from KE5ICX.
Well, characterization, as those who went before me have said, it just, I have to say, it reminded me a little bit of playing a cinematic video game, maybe from 10, 15 years ago, where the graphics were not really great. The non-playable characters, NPCs, abounded, and they didn't really add too much. It was an awful lot like that. So I tended to focus maybe more on the details. So if it's all right, I'll stray from our topic and just mention a couple more things that I noticed. The underwater communications that they were using, they talked about using light beams in order to communicate from one diver to the other. And the reason that that's necessary is radio waves don't propagate very well underwater, and not very far anyway. And so it makes sense that they would need some other way to transmit that information. In practical terms, they actually use ultrasound upper sideband to do that. I've actually got a couple of sets of communication gear for diving underwater. And I noticed that they were somehow communicating magically through mouthpieces that they were holding in their jaws, clenched with teeth. Somehow they were able to articulate. So, that was another thing that I had to suspend belief about. I have double tanks like the ones that they were wearing. I've got double HP 130s. They are extremely heavy above water as well as underwater, and the fact that they were having to wear those while play acting like they were underwater, that must have been very difficult. And some physics regarding the whiskey bottle that was mentioned before. We actually brought down some soda bottles underwater with my diving class, and one of the things that we were trying to see is if we could actually drink from those bottles. It was remarkably difficult. You'd have to squeeze the contents of the bottle to reduce the volume, and then somehow drink it put your thumb over it, get a breath of air, blow some air back into the bottle, and then repeat. It's very... and then finally, the elevator. As they were riding the elevator up, it looks somewhat familiar to me, and I kind of wonder if they didn't recycle that for the Star Trek bridge elevator. Anyway, not characterization exactly, but just some random things. K9AHO.
Well, thank you, Brian. And now we have an expert on drinking underwater and how difficult it is. That's very important. And the elevator, yes, that was the most exciting part of the whole darn thing, going in the elevator. All right. It really was. Next up in Virginia, NV5F, Virginia. Characterization, you're up.
Oh boy, thanks Tom. I'm sitting here figuring out how I'm going to pad my answer. I'll start by saying, it seems like we recently saw another movie with a really cool elevator in it. I'm trying to remember what that was. Anyway, yeah, Star Trek came a few years after this, so maybe they stole some of the cool stuff from this for Star Trek. But, yeah, I mean, the characters were very cookie-cutter. I thought the actors were pretty good, you know, kind of that era, you know, they had that crisp quality and seemed like, and some of them seemed really familiar. I was kind of rooting for the little couple that were on their honeymoon. I thought the lady had a pretty good attitude for someone who ended up, like, underwater in a dangerous situation on her honeymoon. You know, but I think that they could have done better if they'd had a more interesting story or a more realistic story. I'm wondering if the people who wrote The Abyss were somehow inspired by this. There was definitely a romance in that movie. Not as fairy tale as this one, a little more, I guess, realistic. So, yeah, just not a whole lot to say on this topic. I think everybody's pretty much said about all there can be said. And the difficulty telling people apart doesn't help when everybody's dressed the same. So, yeah, that's always kind of a pain whenever, especially if everybody's wearing, you know, even when they go underwater, they're all wearing diving suits or whatever. You know, you especially can't tell them apart when they're in the murky depths with really bad camera focus. So, yeah, not a lot to say about characters. Brian, I appreciate the wealth of information you're bringing us about underwater stuff. That's kind of cool. I've actually heard several people say that, you know, if they were given their choice, they'd rather go to space than go down deep underwater because somehow that seems more difficult and more claustrophobic than going into space. So, I don't know. I think I'd probably agree. I think I'd probably rather go up in a rocket than, you know, than be down under the water with the weird physics of how much pressure is actually down there, and like what Tony was talking about, like under that much pressure, a what seems to be like a slow current, you know, up here would be very, very forceful. At the same time, you go to a place like Mars, and what they consider like a big crazy windstorm on Mars with their thin atmosphere would feel like a gentle breeze to us, you know, here on Earth. So I'll always like hearing about the physics of things and how unrealistic these movies are. So I'm a little off topic, but not a whole lot to say about characters in V5F.
Okay. Thank you, Virginia. I'm not going to say a lot because I don't have much of an ad. Anyone else want to join us? Here's your opportunity. Come with your call. Okay, I don't have much to add to the characterizations. I found them all boring. They're all. The only one I could tell you that was kind of interesting, Dr. Monica Powers. I think she was the nutritionist. That was, in case you didn't know, that was Andy. What was his name? Sheriff Andy Taylor. Andy Taylor's girlfriend from the Andy Griffith Show. In case you wanted to know, you knew you'd seen her somewhere before. That was Julie Ann Adams. Okay, well, geez, I don't have anything to say about the characterization. Characters or the acting was acceptable, I guess, the acting. The script was what was so boring and didn't go anywhere, and characterization was nil. All right, well, we got plenty of time for round 3, so we'll do a full round. This round basically is, we'll talk special effects, music, that's primarily what it's for. But if there's something that you missed on the first 2 rounds or something you're dying to tell us about the film, or it's not even related to any of the above, that's fine too. Round 3 is whatever you want it to be because this is our final round. So we'll start with Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, come back, wake up. It's time to talk about special effects and anything else you want from KE5 ICX. WB50ZL, wake up, you're up. I'll bet you dimes to donuts she fell asleep. Bill, N5BB, you're up.
Hey, Tom, this is N5BB. Can you blame Brenda? Can you really blame her? She ran a whole long net with people that didn't show up, and she had to do special things and fight her computer on the Echolink and everything. And then she has to comment about this darn boring underwater movie. This is supposed to be Afterglow after Skynet. We need a space movie. You know? We need old Bob Gage to be doing something in space, not underwater. Let's see. Music. Was there music? If there was, I forgot it. Yeah, I guess it was in focus, but it was like a 62 poor quality by the time it got to video movie. The original prints may have been okay, but by the time they decided to finally convert it to video, it was a little bit kind of fuzzy. Not as bad as the other movie we saw, though. At least it was reasonably okay. Although it was kind of murky underwater and kind of hard to see what was going on when all these sea creatures were fighting each other to waste time in the movie since they didn't have a plot and just could throw all that footage in there. Special effects. Minimal. Sufficient. What can I say? They showed a submarine. That looked real. The underwater habitats they showed, well, I guess they were okay. Nothing fancy, but it was something. They could open the blinds and show them and close them real quick. So we didn't have to really investigate them look them over in too much detail. There was an elevator. So they obviously filmed in a building with an elevator. But we didn't see anything else. We didn't see any docking things. I don't think we saw people putting on and off scuba gear. We didn't see the little flying, manta ray, little flying boat thing. We didn't see it land and people get in and out of it. We didn't see anything interesting. As somebody mentioned, we didn't see anybody, in their wet. We didn't see, the people kind of exercising in their wetsuits or anything like that. The honeymoon couple were over there by themselves. We didn't see them till the very end. Nothing to look at here, folks. Just boring things going on. The spiciest thing is Bob Gage and somebody else, two of the men, were sneaking kisses from the girls, who didn't complain, but they didn't really ask for it either. They kind of forced kisses on them. What is to be expected? They send all these men and women down there. Of course, the movie's going to show apparently unmarried people sneaking kisses and things, but they could have at least made a romance out of it. They didn't. So it was kind of boring. There wasn't any kind of really romantic angle to it. Sigh. For lack of a plot, the movie died. Inside BD.
Well, thank you, Bill. Yeah, you kind of just throw your hands up and discuss or dismay, one of those D words, and it's maybe a little bit of both, but I hear you. Let's see. Oh, Brenda is back. She said that her phone gave up or something. WB50ZL, your thoughts on special effects, music, or anything else you want to add before we say goodnight? You're up from KE5ICX.
Thank you. This is WB50ZL. I don't know what happened. I heard you call my name. I reached for the phone, and then it just disconnected, and it takes a little while to log back in. Oh, technology hates me. Music I didn't like. It's just so boring. I think, would I like to go live there? No. I'd be living in a, prison or something. There's nothing to do. And I think in the real world, if they develop something like this, this connected me again. I think maybe it wants to go to bed. Anyway, special effects, yeah, those squid or whatever that thing was, whatever those creatures were, that was, it was just gratuitous. You just always have to have some giant creature come along and threaten everybody and be dangerous. It's like part of the formula for these movies, these disaster movies. And it just wasn't very, very well done. On the whole, actually, I'm kind of getting bored with talking about it. Nothing more boring than this movie is boring people that take it seriously. So I think I'm done. Back to that, WB50ZL.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Next up is Tony, NT5PM. Tony, special effects, music, or anything you want. Rant away from KE5ICX.
You know, these nets are very often better than the movies. I appreciate everyone's comments. In particular, I'd like to single out Tom for sticking with us even though he's moved away. He still puts forth the effort to be net control. And Brian, thank you for the technical comments on diving. They were also better than the movie. NT5TM. Have a great night, everybody.
Oh man, he goes and he does the compliment and then he runs away. Perfect. You guys are awesome. Bye. Next up is Brian, K9AHO. Brian, your last thought.
Well, one thing I didn't mention yet was, well, I did. With all of the random mishaps where people were dying, I think even the folks, the producers got tired of it too, because at one point they just showed stock footage of a manta ray and then swirling newspaper, diver dies of manta ray or whatever. Anyway, it seemed like they were even getting tired of it. They didn't even bother to give us that little entertaining narrative. So I have to admit that as we were going on tonight, I started thinking about my diving gear that has been pretty much stowed since COVID, and I'm realizing I need to get all my tanks hydroed and my regs serviced. I want to thank you guys. I think I might get out there and do some scuba diving this year, thanks to this movie, K9AHO.
Working, and then you're going to have to test the drink thing again, make sure that still works physically. Next up is Virginia, NV5F. Your final comments, music, whatever you want to talk about, special effects. You go, tell us anything final that you want to say. You're up.
Okay, well, music was unrememberable. I don't remember it. I do remember when I saw the movie Hunt for Red October in 1990, I watched Siskel and Ebert or something, and I can't remember if they liked the movie, but one of the main comments that I heard from them or whoever was reviewing it in this one particular instance was that all the underwater submarine footage looked really murky, and that's sort of the feel I have from this movie. Murky, it's all brown and gray and not very colorful or interesting. If they could have at least gone to the trouble to try to make the underwater look kind of pretty or something. And, they had all the typical special effects that movies had back then where they always had to throw in, even if it was a sci-fi movie, they'd figure out a way to throw in, weird animals or something, lizards fighting or starfish and squid fighting or whatever. But just as this movie has inspired Brian to go scuba diving, it has inspired me to try to find the lost narration from 2001. I really would die to hear that narration. I'm guessing a lot of it is probably from the text that was used in the novel to explain things, because Arthur C. Clarke is a very good explainer and describer, and I'm guessing that a lot of that was, and it might even be in one of the old screenplays. I need to find an old screenplay version of 2001, and I would like to find all the pro-space propaganda narration that was originally supposed to be in the movie. So that's what I've been inspired to do. NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. And I think you know this, but for anybody else who doesn't, when Arthur C. Clarke did not write screenplays, I don't think he ever did write a screenplay. what he did was he was a novelist. He was a writer for, nonfiction and fiction. So he wrote zillions of books. When he and Stanley Kubrick collaborated on it, Kubrick said, "You have the rights to write the book, and of course I am going to take whatever you write down. If I approve it, I will turn it into the screenplay." So yeah, knowing that Arthur C. Clarke was, the novelist that he was, and great exposition, I'm sure that's exactly what happened. And I think you'll find, too, I think a lot of that's in Lost Worlds of 2001, although not screenplay, but the various versions of stuff that were written and rejected for the movie. You'll find it there. There might even be I don't think they did any of the screen treatments, none of the screenplay translations, but I think you will find that in there. There's another book, I can't think of the name right now, I'll find it. I think there is some notes in there, you may even have it, I can't remember the name of the book. I'm getting a little tired and punchy right now. I'll find it, I'll send you the note on it, I think it's in there, part of the screenplay as written. Now, whether any of it was recorded or not, I kind of doubt, but you never know. Okay, I was thinking, Brian mentioned, the swirling newspaper, which was also another thing you did as a cost-cutting measure. And I was thinking, a guy dies, Manta Ray kills a famous scientist in big, bold print, right? And it's a lot cheaper to mock up a newspaper with that information than it is to actually show the thing happening. And they swirl it around to make it look like you're in the know. So I was thinking one that says narrator dies from overly long monotone delivery. How's that? And you have a little swirling newspaper and the dead narrator from our movie in the picture. Another person, that'd be number 3 who died. That's the way it should have been. Oh, let's see. The quick end, yeah. Somebody mentioned that. I think that probably was. They ran out of film, or time, or both, or actors, potentially. Who knows? Another thing, too, is what was interesting, although they did fix it on the habitat or city or whatever it was, the door edges were rounded a little bit, which is what I was expecting, or hatch-like, which is what you get from just about anything else. But the Manta Ray submarine thing had square doors with little strings on it that let it down and up again. That was really cute. I don't think that would last very long at 6 atmospheres. It was very corny. And now I understand why they move so slowly. Again, there was Brian, and they were telling us how heavy those tanks are. That was interesting. You would think that with neutral buoyancy and all that, they would have had something where they could bounce. But we know they didn't have any money for this movie, or at least not enough money to do the underwater scenes. All they did was add in stock footage to make that happen, and then they walked around at an incredibly glacial pace everywhere, which didn't help the slow pacing to begin with. But at least it was consistently slow through the entire film. So there you have it. All right, well, I guess that's it. We're going to finish up a little bit early tonight. Give me a second here. I will tell you what next week's movie is, please.